Explain the difference between open and closed-ended questions. That's what you asked me to do. That's what I'm going to do on this episode of the Inside BS Show. Hi, it's Dave Lorenzo. This is the Inside BS Sales Tip Show. We're here every day with a great new tip for you. And this is part of our series on open-ended questions. Now, you asked me to explain the difference between open and closed-ended questions. That's what I'm going to do in this video today. We have 6 elements that outline the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions. And the 7th thing I'm going to share with you in today's video is the structure for questions that always works. That's right. If you're worried about, do I use an open-ended question? Do I use a closed-ended question? I'm going to give you a structure for asking questions that always works. It's a surefire thing. It works every time. So you've got 6 differences between open and closed-ended questions in this video. At the end of the video, the structure for how to create these questions during a discovery process or during a sales interview, it always works. I'm going to share that with you right at the end of the show today. All right, let's talk about the difference between open and closed-ended questions, and let's start with number 1. The first difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions is closed-ended questions get quick answers, and that's not a good thing in sales. Closed-ended questions will get a yep or a nope or a yes or a no, and you don't want that in sales. When we start a sales conversation, especially when we start a sales conversation, we want to collect as much information as is possible. Why? Because our goal is to use our services, use our products, use our services, use the experience we provide to the clients to help them either achieve an outcome, to help them make money, to help them save money, to help them reduce risk. We want to be able to do those things, as many of them as we can. Closed-ended questions don't give us the information we need to make that possible. Open-ended questions do. Closed-ended questions get quick answers, and we don't want quick answers. We want the sales process to reveal the best way for us to help our prospective client. Open-ended questions do that. So that's the first difference between open and closed-ended questions. When it comes to the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions, you have to realize that closed-ended questions don't help you discover anything new. That's the real bottom line on this entire process. Closed-ended questions, they really shut down the discovery process, and that's the key to success in relationship-based sales. So if you're looking to help yourself get to the bottom of the client's concern, the bottom of the client's problems, the thing that the clients need in order to do business with you, open-ended questions are the key that unlocks all doors. If you ask closed-ended questions, you're going to get yes or no answers, and I know old school sales gurus or the sales techniques of the past want people to get in the habit of getting yeses from everyone. You know, if you were drowning and I threw you a life preserver, would you grab it? Yes. You know, is it a sunny day outside? Yes. Is the sky blue? Yes. After they say yes 3 or 4 times, they're conditioned to saying yes. That's the old school sales way, but you know, that's a closed-ended question. It's a yes or no question. You don't learn anything new about the client. Our focus is on developing relationships by delivering value. And the only way we can deliver value is if we figure out what's going on in the world of the client. And the fastest way to do that is by asking open-ended questions. And that's the second significant difference between open and closed-ended questions. So if you're wondering still what the difference is between open-ended and closed-ended questions in sales, that's number 2. Point number 3 in the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions. Point number 3 is open-ended questions develop relationships. The difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions is closed-ended questions get you a yes or no answer. We talked about that already. But the biggest impact you can have is developing that relationship. So when you ask an open-ended question, the prospective client is going to share with you some of the things that are going on in their business, in their life, in their career, and the answers to those questions are going to be the foundation for relationship development between the two of you. So explaining the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions, I mean, point number 3 really says it all. Open-ended questions develop relationships, and that's what we're after. We're in the relationship business. So if you're looking to develop relationships, open-ended questions are the way to go, and it's a big point of difference between open and closed-ended questions. Now, you're looking for me to explain the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions, and open-ended questions show that you care, and that perhaps is one of the most important reasons to ask open-ended questions. That's to really demonstrate your caring, your concern, your empathy for the client and the situation that he or she is in. When you walk into the client's office and you go, "Ms. Client, thank you for inviting me in. What were you hoping to accomplish during our time together today?" You're focusing on the world of the client. You're not going in there looking to pitch, and you're not going in there specifically to sell your product or your service. You're going in there looking to help the client get out of a situation that they find themselves stuck in, or you're looking to help them achieve a goal. So the difference between open and closed-ended questions drive you toward an outcome that's focused on you. Open-ended questions are focused on helping you help the client. So open-ended questions really are set in the world of the client, and they're designed to uncover what's going on in the world of the client so that you can help them. That's one of the most profound differences between open-ended and closed-ended questions. You're looking for the difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions, right? And we're up to number 5. Point number 5, open-ended questions lead to outcomes. Open-ended questions lead to outcomes. That's point number 5. You want results. You want to close deals. Open-ended questions lead to deals closing. Mr. Client, what's going to happen if this deal doesn't go through? What will happen to you? And they'll tell you, how important is this deal to you personally? And they'll tell you. That's an open-ended question, and it leads to deals that are closed. It's so important for you to ask open-ended questions because open-ended questions lead to outcomes. They lead to getting things done. Closed-ended questions lead to dead ends. Whether people say yes or no to you, you're headed toward a dead end. So focus on the open-ended questions. One of the biggest differences between open and closed-ended questions is open-ended questions lead to outcomes. I've got the 6th difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions for you right now. It's coming up right here. Here we go. So when we're looking at the difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions, you got to focus on the 6th point, and that's that closed-ended questions essentially shut down the entire sales process. When you ask somebody a question and you get a yes or a no, that's the end of the sales process, even if you get a yes. Mr. Prospect, have you ever given any thought to what it would be like to work with someone like me? Yes. What do you do with that? You're stuck. Have you ever given any thought to what it would be like to work with someone like me? No. Again, you're stuck. Mr. Prospect, tell me about our relationship. How do you envision our relationship playing out? Similar to the 2 questions I just asked, but the answer is far more in-depth, it's far more valuable, it's far more powerful. The difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions is dramatic when it comes to the sales process. You get to look at what's behind the words. You get a window into the mindset of your prospective client, and it helps you close the deal. Now we're coming to the point that I told you about at the beginning of our time together. We're coming to the point where I'm going to teach you the structure that always works. It's the final point in our time together today. Join me for point number 7, the structure that always works. It's coming up right now. Now it's time for point number 7, and this is what I promised you at the beginning of our time together today. The structure for questions that always works. You asked me right at the outset of our time together to explain the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions. Explain the difference between open and closed-ended questions. Here's a structure for your questioning that always works. I want you to start broad and go narrow as you're asking your questions. So if you're in your discovery process as a sales professional or as a lawyer or a CPA, an independent professional, or you're in an entrepreneurial role and you're trying to get a deal closed and you're in the discovery process, you start broad. Ask the person across from you how the economy is affecting their business. Then ask them about industry trends. Then you ask about what's going on locally related to their business. And finally, you ask them specifically what's happening within their company. You start broad. Economy, and then industry, and then local community, and then company. And then finally, you're going to get to them personally, and we're going to talk about that in another video. But I want you to be really aware that the structure of your questions always starts broad and it gets narrow. Why? Because this is natural. Your client will feel comfortable. They won't feel like they're being interrogated. You know, when people ask me to explain the difference between open and closed-ended questions, they always say, well, Dave, I'm worried that my client is going to feel like they're being interrogated. If you do this money tip, tip number 7, start broad and finish narrow, they'll never feel like they're being interrogated. This is so important. I'm so glad you stuck with me to the end of this video. This is just one video in a whole series on open-ended questions and how they help you close deals. You can look for the other videos in the series by clicking the link up here or clicking the link at the end of the video. Also, the link is down in the description. Watch all of these videos on open and closed-ended questions. This series is critical to your success. I'm thrilled that you were with me today. Thanks for joining me and thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. We will see you in our next video on open-ended questions. Until then, here's hoping you make a great living and live a great life. We'll see you in the next video. Watch right now.